Hey buddy, it's BTC Gambler here. This is a video for people that are using VPN. So this is an update. If you've seen a previous video, which is a training video and a PDF that's associated to it, and it says working with VPNs, this is an updated version. That video is still relevant to get OpenVPN working with PIA. That doesn't change, but there's been some massive improvements to this. So one of the challenges that I had was getting a unique IP address on every client. Here you're looking at my test and dev and UAT environment. So I do all my testing in this environment, guys. So I'm showing you this environment because I'm going to show you the changes that I've made, that if you've got the latest version of Alphaverse, you will also have this as well. And you'll probably be completely unawares of this. This is a big change. It's a massive improvement, and it will make your life so much easier. So in the older version, you had to keep rerunning the restart VPN script to get a unique IP address, and it's really important that you maintain a unique IP address. I nearly had Alphaverse taken away from me. Eddie threatened that we may have to disband and turn off Alphaverse because it was causing a problem there, and it's simply because I had too many duplicate IPs. And there was a version of the code that detected duplicate IPs, and it blocked one of them. I don't block them anymore now because they seem to be less festered by it, but I'm still very mindful of the fact that every client really should have a unique IP address. And if they're not, you will know because they'll be yellow. So I'm going to show you the improvements I've made. I think you're going to like them. I hope you like them anyway. I put a lot of work into this, and it's there to make your life easier. So first and foremost, I'm going to show you some changes. So first off, I'm bringing over Visual Studio Code, and you'll notice now that the restart VPN script, it was very different to the version that you're probably looking at, but it's a lot more sophisticated. What I've done, I've written some code on the server. Let's bring this back on the server. And this is the reason why I've got two package.json files now. I've got one for the client and one for the server. So when you're on the server, you will basically have to rename this to package.json, take off the word server. And there's a few more dependencies, and one of the big ones is Puppeteer. This one here, that's not in the client. And to be honest, I wouldn't want it in the client because it's quite heavyweight, that is. Let me show you my server. I've got a putty session open to my dev box, and at the moment it's just running the server. So if we do screen-list, we've got the server running. There's a new piece of code under the server configuration. So under server, and it's called get IPs. And what it is a piece of tool that uses Puppeteer to screen scrape your Alphaverse session. And I have this running live in my production environment, by the way, but in this test environment here, it logs into this using Puppeteer, and it picks up the credentials to log into that web page from the client config. So when we go back here, you'll see that the client config has been massively changed as well. So there's a load of new fields in here that are absolutely essential. It picks up what the master host is, so that would be the name of your Alphaverse server, and it picks up the username and password from the server config, so the basic user author and the basic password, and it picks that up in the code. So from that, it's able to log into that website, and then it's using Puppeteer to extract out the IP addresses, and it stores them in JSON format, and it stores it in a file called knownips.txt, and we can see that. So I've just got a WinSCP session open here, so you can see it creates this file called knownips.txt, and if we open it up, it just gives a list of IP addresses that it knows about. So in order to start that, there is actually, if we look at the package.json, and as you can see, this version has got Puppeteer in it as well, but we've got a few extra ones as well. So we've got one here called get IPs. So I've written a script to start this up. So if you run bin get IP server, what that would do, if we run a screen list now, we see we now have two screens. And if we go into the Get IP screen, okay, you'll see now that it's actually running. So every 30 seconds, it launches into your Alphaverse server, uses Puppeteer, screen scrapes the known IP addresses and stores them in JSON format. And there you can see it running there again now. And those two IP addresses, 188.47, should match through. 188.47, they do match through. Now that's really useful, because now when we look at the code here associated to the restart VPN under the bin folder, it is pulling down a copy of that file locally, restarting the VPN, checking to see if that IP address has already been used, and if it hasn't, it creates another fresh random VPN location to these locations here, until eventually it finds a free one, and then this will prevent you from getting duplicate IPs. Now bear in mind, it does run every 30 seconds, so if you did like 2 within 30 seconds, you're going to get a duplicate IP probably. So bear in mind there's a 30-second gap between it. Now, important thing to note, this is using, because you have to use the sudo command in here, and before the old version I said you had to put your sudo password in there. I'm using a tool called JQ to pull out the server sudo password from the client config, and this is why the client config now has got in there the need to put the sudo password. This is not the only script that uses this, by the way, so when you fill out your client config, it's really important that you put your sudo password in there, otherwise this restart VPN will not work. Mine's already fully populated, so if I run a putty session to one of these, bear with me a second. So I've logged on to test client 19, so if I go into the Alphaverse folder and I restart the VPN, it does a whole bunch of commands, and that will be, it will kill the client, it will pull down that known IP address list, it would create a new connection, it would check to see whether the IP address is duplicate, and it's only when it gets a unique IP address that it is relevant. So we will have to, because we changed the IP address, you will have to get a new session cookie from stake. And that's correct, the balance is actually 0. But so it worked. So obviously every time you change the IP address, you will need to get a new session cookie from stake. So recap, there's a new version of the restart VPN script. It's a lot more sophisticated. It relies on the fact that the Get IP server is running on the server, which you will have to run manually on the server. As you can see, we're inside the screen now, but you'd have to run the command bin restart Get IP server, and you know when it's working right because you'll get a new screen called Get IPs, and when you go into that screen you will see that it's actively logging in. If you've done all your bits right, then this will work, providing you filled in all of your client configuration and the server configuration, base username, password, auth token, but more importantly you put the sudo password in here as well, and you got the server running. This makes life a million times easier. So when you've only got a few clients, but when you've got hundreds of clients, you will find this will be a lifesaver. Listen, if you've got any questions on this, you know where to find me. But this is a big improvement. I hope you like it, and I'll speak to you all again very, very soon.